All right, I am Amy Andersson. I am a CPA who does not do income taxes. I provide the CFO services for multiple businesses as through Price Turner CFOs. That is my company. I am given a disclosure, and it's on every single slide. This information is of a general nature. It may omit many details and special rules and is current only as of its published date. Please contact us for more information and how it pertains to your specific tax or financial situation. I want to recognize our Beacon sponsors. We always do this anyway: Prime Point, Marsh McClellan, and Tryon. Okay, we're going to go through then the resources, and here are a couple. I've highlighted these in green. Everybody can see the screen, correct? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay.
Yes.
And the ones in green are going to be the ones that most of you will be looking at. There are a couple through the SBA Gov. That's SBA.gov. Don't go to any site that says we're like the SBA. There is a $10,000 advance. I will show you how to do that one. There's also an economic industry disaster loan, which is for substantially more. We'll talk about that too. I will not talk about the bridge loans, the debt relief, and payment deferral programs, but those are available if you have existing SBA loans or if you need just a quick loan. And again, you're an existing SBA customer or you've worked with them in the past. The FFCRA, I will go over very quickly. That's related to the federal paid sick leave related to the COVID, and it's put out by the Department of Labor. The CARES Act is the one that was literally signed on March 27th, and this is the one that most people have heard of recently. There are two things that affect. There's quite a few things in there, but one of the things that affects businesses is the ability to defer payroll taxes if you have employees. The second one is what's called the PPP, and I will go into that one in some detail. By the way, you cannot take both. And I'll repeat this later, but you cannot take both the deferral of the payroll taxes and the PPP. You can take one or the other. And the Paycheck one will probably be more advantageous to people as a business. There's also the PA Economic Development Grants. These came out very, very quickly and pretty much will go on very, very quickly also. I'll just explain those in case more money is there and you are aware of it. And then finally, I'll talk about unemployment with the employees and then also for the self-employed. And what's critical there is this is brand new for those who are sole proprietors, which it sounds like a lot of people are, sole owners of the LLCs, etc. So we'll go through all of this. Okay. All right, the first one that I'm talking about is the 10K advance. This is, you go on to the SBA.gov. You have to take a few screens to get there. I won't go through it here because it does take about 7 screens, but you just keep clicking on SBA loan, SBA loan, SBA loan, or EIDL, and you're looking for the 10K advance. So when you finally get there, it's going to be a little icon on the screen that it's kind of cute and has SBA. Okay, so this one is for small businesses with less than 500 people, all right, including sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed. I think that means everybody on this call, all right? So you want to do this EIDL $10,000 advance. You have to put in information related to the business and personal, and then it's very streamlined. It's a couple of pages, and then there's, right towards the end of it, there's a box which says, do you want the $10,000 advance? And you click on that box, and then you enter in your checking account number and your routing number. This is why you may want to make sure it's on the SBA.gov. That will then be made available within a few days of the successful application. How many days that is, I don't know. but it will not have to be repaid. So if you think about this, it's $10,000 from the SBA that is being given to every business to help them out. Yes, Greg.
All right, so it says it does not have to be repaid, but it also says loan as opposed to grant. Is there some sort of differentiation, or is there some sort of fine print?
It's the fact that this was really set up to be substantially more of a working capital, but the government realized that a lot of people need an infusion right now. So I haven't seen any paperwork with anything that says you have to prove it or anything like that. You're going to get this $10,000 in the bank account, and that's the extent of what I have seen. Now, I am not a lawyer, but I have heard from quite a few other people, other CPA firms, other lawyers, and they're saying, yeah, it says loan, but it does not have to be repaid.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on this one? Okay, so you all have an action item all ready to do tonight after this call. Okay, this next one is the one that was originally out there, because this is what's called the EIDL, and this is related to allowing businesses to get up to $2 million in a very low interest rate with through the SBA. And they also are stopping some of the requirements with the SBA and all the due diligence related to the SBA. And it's at 3.75 for businesses and 2.75 for nonprofits. All right, you're going to see that there are other loans, and given the prime rate where it is, it's not that different right now, but it's still a little bit lower. This can be used, for example, to refinance any high interest debt if you have any. All right, but it does have to be approved, and this one may also take personal guarantee, because that's what the SBA does, personal guarantee related to the owners of the business and such. So be a little bit cognizant, this is a true loan. So to Greg's point, this is a loan, this will have a lot of paperwork involved, and it is, again, with less than 500 employees, a company with less than 500 employees. It is available, though, if you have, don't have any other capital. All right, this FFRS, this is one of the ones that came out very early on in the COVID issues, because people were getting sick and were not able to be paid because they were sick. They said, oh, I'm afraid of getting sick, I need to leave, or that they had to take care of somebody who had COVID. And so this came up with the idea that the Department of Labor said, you have to pay people, okay? And there is it's very specific as to what happens. The idea is it's somebody, they're active employees now, so I think it was, Greg said his people are very active, he's got lots of employees still working. If somebody gets it, though, Greg, you would have to pay them sick leave, okay? Not every company has sick leave, and that's why this was set up, okay? And there are HR resource lawyers that if you have this situation, I would go to them. I have it here just so that let you know that it is available. And Ford has a question. Yes, Ford.
So can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, the question is, if you go back to, you don't have to go back, but with regard to your two previous slides, what is the difference between those two EIDLs? Is it just that one is a $10,000 limit and then the other one goes way up much higher?
The application starts off the exact same way, and you just check that box, and then you are in the queue for one of these larger applications, but you won't even get identified as being needing it unless you want to do more. So it's like, okay, we're going to give this to everybody. I haven't seen anyone where the application has been turned down, but I haven't seen that anyone's received their money yet either. So it is like a fourth step that if you ask for $100,000, you would get that $10,000 removed because you had asked for it.
So do you literally click a box that says, I want the $10,000 one, or I want the?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's very simple.
Free money.
And we'll get to even more.
Amy, can I ask you a follow-up question?
You
can while I'm trying to figure out where I'm going.
Just to be clear, and you may have been clear, this is Tony for everybody's benefit, and I missed it. Is it an either-or proposition then between the two?
No, on the EIDL, it is you get the $10,000, and then if you qualify and you want more up to 10 million, you can get up to 2 million. Sorry, you can get that as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
You are welcome. This is the one on the CARES Act. This is the one where you can get payroll tax deferral and employee retention credit, okay? It relates to the taxes for FICA. Everybody knows when they pay, either as an employee, you have to pay FICA, or if you're self-employed, you have to pay FICA, both from the employee and the employer perspective. This is related to the employer perspective, all right? So during the time period from March 27th through December 31st, 2020, you can defer those payments of those taxes to the IRS up with 50% due in December 31, 2021, and the other 50% due December 31st, 2022. It literally is deferring those payroll taxes, which could be substantial because it's 6.2% of the employer's amount, and that can be deferred, okay? There is also a retention credit, which is related to keeping your employees on. Now, this is all part of the CARES Act. The issue is you still have to pay all of those dollars, right? It's just a deferral. Now, that's good for somebody who's cash strapped. We've got a better option though. And I want to go through that one in more detail because I think it will be more applicable to most people on this call. But I wanted you to be aware of this because if you take this, you cannot have, as it says as it's highlighted in yellow, the PPP loan, okay? And let's go through that. Does anybody have a question before I go through PPP? Okay. This is, the nerdy accountant in me loves this, okay? What it is a paycheck protection program where in essence you apply for it using some calculations which are very specified. You have to show the documentation to the lender and then you will get a sum of money which is going to be used for payroll. Okay, the rules are very specific. The good thing is, this is what people are saying is the forgiveness. All right, this is not a grant. It is a loan which is forgivable. Even if you have to pay back some of that loan, the interest rate is only 1% and can be paid back over 2 years with payments deferred for 6 months. All right. But let's go through the purpose. The purpose of this is to keep people employed by businesses, not to have them on unemployment. Okay, because if you think about it, the federal government is going to be paying and the state governments are going to be paying through unemployment compensation. This way they're giving money to keep people employed, to keep giving them their paychecks. So it's, for the government, it's better to at least have them actually working. All right. Now, you have to go through a bank. So let's go through this. Everybody can see this slide. You have to go through a bank, which is an SBA lender. All right. Because of the nuances of going through the bank really has to validate that you are who you say you are. So that's why customers are preferred. So if you go to a Bank of America and open an account right now, you're going to be at the end of the line of the other Bank of America customers. So if you have a bank, TD is a good one. I've seen our clients are already working on that one and getting it through, i.e. the application has been accepted. So this is where you need to do it. Also, every single bank is different in what they're requiring. And realize also that Friday night, the Treasury and the SBA agreed on the terms on Friday, Thursday night and Friday. There were some other things going on. This really was only opened on either Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, yesterday and today, for people to submit. Wells Fargo has already had $10 billion submitted by their clients, and they are now closed. There is $350 billion for this program. All right, and the SBA, the Treasury has said there will be more. Yes, Greg.
What do you mean by Wells Fargo is closed? Meaning they've used up whatever resources they have?
They have used up that $10 million. They've already had all their applications have already exceeded the $10 billion that they said they were going to allocate to this.
So what do you do if you're Wells Fargo?
You find another
With a TD bank.
They don't accept it. It says customers only too.
Everyone is doing customers only at this time. But the Treasury also realizes that $349 billion may not be enough. Also, this is for companies. So let's talk about this. This one is for companies with less than 500 employees. So raise your hand if you qualify under that. Either you're an employee or you own that type of company. Okay, a couple of us are there. For the others, we're all probably self-employed, independent contractors of some sort, sole proprietors, etc. We are supposed to have applications available to us as of this coming Friday. So be ready. It is supposedly a different program, but under some of the same caveats. So let's look at the calculation. So again, each bank has different applications. So one bank is asking for the prior 12 months, another bank is asking for 2019. Pay attention when you're doing the application, what the criteria is for that bank. And you have to upload all of that documentation. If you have a Mac, I know the PNC application does not like the Mac, for example. So try it on a Chrome browser with a PC. I talked about the keeping employees on payroll. That's what they want. And in your calculations, you exclude any payments to the independent contractor. Again, this program will be open to independent contractors next week when all of us will be able to apply as well. The calculation is the following, and it went back and forth a couple of times. Even today, there was a new qualification related to both independent contractors and healthcare benefits. And Tony, you have a question.
You're following up on your last point about Wells Fargo shutting their program down. If April 10th is the opening for sole proprietors, okay, theoretically, could your bank that you do business with be closed at that point, and we haven't even got into the game yet?
Correct. That is potential, yes. And that is why the Treasury Secretary also said that more money would be available.
That's what I heard today. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the calculation, especially for those who have employees, remember this is related to employees, is going to be the annual wages. And if you've got somebody who makes over $100,000, that's the max they can do. So if they make $150,000, they're maxed out at that $100,000. You then take the healthcare benefits that are paid by the company, and then you add the state unemployment. All right. You take all those costs, divide by 12. That gives you your average monthly. Then you multiply it by 2.5. I told you guys I'm a geek here. I'm an accountant. I can do all these numbers. Some of you also are math people. That's the requested loan amount. All right. So let's say everything works. It's $120,000 for the annual wages, your health benefits, your SUTA. You divide that by 12. You get $10,000. You multiply that by 2.5. You've got $25,000 coming. Agreed?
Yep.
I like simple math. That's your requested loan amount. Those proceeds must be used specifically for payroll costs, which are defined above, the payroll, the benefits paid to for the employees, and the SUTA. And they also say, okay, we're also going to let you pay business mortgage insurance, business mortgage interest, business rent, and business utility. Okay? Over 8 weeks from the date you receive your funds. So if you apply, say you apply today, and you receive the funds on the 20th, you have 8 weeks from April 20th to utilize those funds. All right? So you have to keep track of that. You have to make sure you are using all of those funds in the proper manner. All right? Now, on June 30th, you have to then go to your bank and say, I want to have my loan forgiven. And you're going to have to prove out every dollar of those funds. If 75% was used for payroll costs, you had a good number. If you use less than 75%, for example, you may not get the whole thing forgiven. If you use more and you pay utilities more, and the utilities in the interest and things like that are at 20%, at 30%, and you only pay payroll for 70%, you will not have the whole thing forgiven. Also, if you have less employees this year versus your base year of 2019, you may not have all of it forgiven. All right? The point is keep track of everything you spend, use it on as much as possible on payroll costs. Then those dollar values will be forgiven. All right? And that's through that June 30th reconciliation with the bank. Tony, question.
I just want to confirm what my understanding is that if you don't have employees and thus you don't have payroll, that you can use, if you qualify, you can use it for, as you said, rent and utility.
Yes, but remember, if you have independent contractors who work for, well, let me rephrase it. I don't know what it is if you don't have employees and all you have is independent contractors yet. I don't know yet how they're doing that or what those calculations are.
And I asked that question because my accountant advised me after I was questioning whether this would apply to my business. He says it would. You'll just utilize the money differently. You won't be paying salary for employees.
But if you think about it, how much rent and utility costs are you going to be paying over 8 weeks?
Okay.
And the calculation of the loan amount is still the same, which is payroll plus healthcare benefits plus SUTA. So if you don't have any employees, you don't have any state unemployment tax, and the only thing you're left with is healthcare. So, and that multiplied by 2.5. So you're not going to get that much.
Mm.
All right. So that's why I'm suggesting to people to wait until the instructions come out related to independent contractors, if that's what you've got. If you've got employees, you should be on this immediately.
But again, what do you do if the bank is closed?
I have a connection, Tim, if you want to reach out to me.
Yeah, because I tried on Saturday and it was already backed up, and it wouldn't. Wells Fargo went allowed.
Yeah, and you have no other loans.
That's
with
where all my
anyone else?
banking. That's where all my business accounts are.
Where are your personal accounts?
Bank of America, but they said customers, business customers only.
Yeah. They actually did release some of those today. I had a client who only had a checking and no loans, and she was able to get in, but she does have a business checking account.
Yeah, that's our personal stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And you may want to find out if you can there.
But if you could, I'll shoot you a note if you've got a
Yep.
recommendation, because that's where I'm at. I've got all the calculations and documentation. I just can't submit it.
Right. And there are some quote unquote lender brokers out there, but it's not even open to them right now. The SBA is not open to them. So
Yeah, I contacted a few of them too.
Are any institutions using this as a sales? Switch your business here. We'll help you qualify.
can you repeat that?
It would seem to me that some of the banks or other fund might be willing to say, if you switch your business accounts here, we will help you participate in this program.
The banks have known about this for a little bit. They are still dealing with their customers first, from what I've seen.
Okay.
And most of them are saying they have to be a customer February 15th.
Yeah. And you have to have been a customer prior to, because one of the things that they have to do is validate that the company was in operation at February 15th. And that's the due diligence. Realize that the banks have to do diligence on their own in order to qualify for these also. They will be getting this, and it's 100% backed by the SBA, which is totally different as well. And I think Ford had another question.
Yes, thank you, Amy. I don't want to contradict, but when I spoke to my accountant about the PPP program, he told me that my own pay, my own income was qualified to be covered by the Paycheck Protection Program. In other words,
Are you a S corp?
What I heard.
I'm an LLC.
Do you get a paycheck every month?
No, not formally.
Then you don't have a payroll register to be able to provide to the bank to prove it.
No, I guess not. He took my annual pay from the business, divided it by 12.
It's a draw.
That's only a draw. That's not payroll, and you don't pay state unemployment taxes on it.
And do you think after the 10th that there would be a provision for people like us?
Well, that's what's supposed to come out on Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, keep aware of this. I will be sending out, I'll get everyone's emails from Zoe and be able to send something out to you guys as soon as I hear something. And Mark Rechator had a question.
Yeah, Amy, I was just going to say on a webinar today, I heard pursuant to the self-employed that the banks may look at your net self-employment income, and each bank's going to have their own definition pursuant to, because all you have is a draw, to try and come up with what you're calling, some type of payroll to do the math. But they haven't exactly defined it, and we're all going to have to wait till the 10th.
And this is the thing, is net income. Some people keep their taxes on their report to show that. Some people do not. Some people put their draw in their P&L. And, again, that's what I've heard as well, is the average net income, and they may be taking our tax returns to show that. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, but it hasn't been exactly defined. I agree.
No, it has not. And that's one of the things, is from a tax perspective, you want to minimize your taxes that are due, and now they're saying, okay, well, we'll take it on that. And again, many of us have not applied have not filed for 2019. So
Correct.
do we take internally generated, or do we take the tax returns from 2018?
Good question.
Yeah, so there are a lot of questions on this. I mean, last night, it came out with people doing the application, and independent contractors are specifically not included in these calculations, okay? However, the 100,000 that I talked about, the previous description said that the total was 100,000 per employee, and that included everything. But it turns out that 100,000 is just related to the compensation. So if you have someone who's got 50,000, you put the salary at 100, then you add in the healthcare benefits. All right, so it does matter. So that brings up the amount that you can take even further. Again, the interest on this is 1%. So if you go through the whole thing after June 30th and you have not spent it on what the bank considers appropriate amount, appropriate types of expenses, you may owe that portion back. All right. It's 1% and you have 2 years to pay it back with 6 months of those deferred. So even if you can, you can get this, it's important though to work out when you're spending it and potentially prepay some of those expenses, adjust your payroll, whatever you need to do to be able to utilize this program. Okay. And I call it free money. It's not free money. We're all paying for it one way or the other. But it's one of the few times the government has done this, so we can utilize it. Again,
really
say that again, Tony.
I said it really is extraordinary.
It is. I mean, if you look at what's happening here, this is the first time I've ever seen anything like this. So, okay. This is a big one. Come to me if you have any questions on this. When I go into the chat room to see the questions, it kicks me out of this, the slideshow, so I apologize. Okay. This is the Pennsylvania Economic Development Loans. I don't know. I didn't ask everyone what state they were in. I was following Pennsylvania a lot. This one, however, it was a 0% loan, but it was a loan. Unfortunately, as of last week, the $61 million in funding has been already exhausted. So if you did not apply for that, that is no longer available. It may open up again. This is the point that I want you to know is if you look at, it's called an economic development loan. It was a maximum of $100,000. They may get some funding at some point from somewhere else. So just pay attention if you see that this may be available again. Okay. Unemployment comp. Again, this is something that is brand new within unemployment. First time I've ever seen this happen. They, for those people who have employees and you might have let people go, they are eligible for unemployment compensation. This is true even if you have reduced their hours. So if people, say, oh, I was part-time, I'm even less part-time, I can't do it, the answer is yes, they can. Everyone who is working, and at this point, it's only looking at employees who have been either let go, so their hours have been reduced, or they've been let go entirely. In the past, it was also where you had to have 18 weeks of continuous employment to get that. They've stopped any of that history requirement. It also required you to have to actually go search for work. Obviously, they've stopped that requirement. And there also was a waiting week where you didn't get anything. You had to be unemployed for a week, and then you would apply, and then it was a waiting week after that. That all has gone away as well. So if you know people who have been unemployed now or their hours have lessened, make sure they go online to claim the unemployment compensation. You go on through your state. It's a very easy process. At that point, a form is sent to the owner of the company, which some of you might be. And in that case, you have to fill out a wonderful, oh, you can't even see it. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Didn't know that worked with virtual background. There is a form that has to be filled out by the employer that validates those, that the person was an employee. And also that it was for lack of work. Then, a couple of new things. The federal relief is now going to give $600 per week per employee. All right, and that's going to go on from April 4th through July 31. That is in addition to what the employer, to the employee, ex-employee gets through the unemployment compensation from the state. Then the other thing, and again, we're waiting on this. We have not heard on this, but for those people who are independent contractors or they have independent contractors, they hire them. Independent contractors, gig workers, self-employed will all be able to get unemployment compensation. Again, I have no idea how this is going to be calculated. I don't know if this is something where they're going to say it's, you know, a net income number. I'm not sure how they're going to do it or when. Every time I go onto the Philadelphia website, it literally says, continue to check this page, but we're not ready yet. All right. And don't try to phone them. They won't answer. All right. Just in terms of business or personal, these are some other ideas, and there are many, many other areas that you can do, but mortgage companies, both personal or business, rent companies and such, credit card, all of these companies are dealing with the same thing. So they are offering some payment deferral programs, some interest deferral programs. Some of them are stopping late fees and everything and anything in between. So if you have a mortgage, if you have rent, if you have credit cards, talk to the people, communicate with that, and get it in writing from them, or record it on a Zoom call or something like that. There are...
Relative to that, the at least our bank is you can defer it 6 months, but then it's all payable after 6 months.
Okay. Is it interest? Does it start, or does interest still accumulate?
Interest still accumulates.
Okay.
You just have deferring it for 6 months.
Okay, and that's something right now. Is, you know, if you need the funds to keep going here and that cash flow, and you might be able to get a loan out of all of it. And that's where that EIDL loan would be applicable if you needed it to pay that. But again, that's a 3.75. I don't know if that's lower than the loan you've got. So if you were in an office or environment and now you're working from home, call your utility companies. People at the shore used to have what was called a vacation time, where the cable company would still have basic cable, but you didn't have the full thing. It was just vacation mode. That way you didn't have to pay when you started it back up again. Utility expenses. PICO and PGW are not allowed to shut anything off. And in fact, they turned people on who were unable to pay earlier this month. And so again, they won't stop the service just because you haven't paid. Work it out with them. Everyone's willing to do payment plans. Lawyers are willing to do payment plans. I forget who my lawyer is here, but everyone's doing payment plans as well. So if you've got vendors, just talk to them, okay? And on the flip side, if you've got clients who owe you money, you know, talk to them too. Can they make a couple of payments each month, rather than, you know, the whole thing all at once? All right. And now we've got questions and answers. I know that was a mouthful. I need to swallow and take some water. But there was a lot of information there. So now it is open. I think all of you are muted. Just unmute yourself if you've got a question, and I'll call on you. Ford, I saw you first.
Thank you. So just to boil it all down, as an independent self-employed person with a small LLC and no employees, it seems from your presentation that I would be eligible to apply for the EIDL SBA loan, that I would potentially be eligible for the PPP after they bring out their program for independent business owners next Monday, and that I would also be potentially eligible for unemployment compensation when they come out with that program soon. Am I accurate in that?
You are. And on the EIDL, you just want to apply, just make sure you apply and do the checkbox for the 10,000.
Right. And is it okay to do all three, or do they say you can only do one?
No, it is okay. Well, I don't know what the PPP requirements are going to be versus the unemployment compensation.
Okay.
Okay. That remains to be seen with what the qualifications are there. They may require you to show that you've had a decrease in business to do the unemployment, versus the PPP, which may allow you to get some funds. I imagine you'll be able to do one and potentially the other, but I don't know, because, you know, that's the one thing they're not allowing people to double dip.
Right. Well, it sounds like you would suggest to do the EIDL loan right away and then wait until next week to see what they put out for the PPP and the unemployment for independent owners.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Anyone else?
Well, it's Ford again. Can I say one more thing?
Yes, Ford.
I've been on the Bank of America website every day for a week, for several days, and it's very frustrating. I went through filling it out, got the last page, and then it would just seize up or go blank. So it has been a very frustrating experience.
Yes, and the EIDL, when it first came out, was about a 15-page website, voluminous, where you had to upload all the tax documents and this, that, and the other thing. And then the SBA happened to mention in one little blog that they deleted everyone prior to this one date. And if you had a confirmation which started with a 2, your application was deleted and you had to redo it.
It's really a mess.
It is, and if you think about these changes, and again, on the PPP loan specifically, every single bank that is participating had to create their own web application form. And for those in IT, every single one is different. The what do I want to say? The interpretation of what was included and what was not included was being done by every single bank because it was so confusing. And so, you know, there have been sites that have been up, down, sideways. You know, they, like you said, Ford, you get to the very end of it and then it just kicks you out. I've had one who was on, she had needed one more document to upload and it kicked her out. She had to start the whole thing again, 3 different times.
You wouldn't want him to kick him out at the beginning, would you? That wouldn't be frustrating.
You're right, Chris. You know, I mean, who would want to do that?
Well, this is good information. It's the first I've heard that the EIDL does not have to be repaid.
Yeah, and if you go actually onto the SBA.gov site, and as you're looking for it, it specifically does say that. And I copied those words directly into this site, as I just wanted to make sure.
Well, Amy, I got to tell you, Amy, I'm very glad to hear everything that you've said because, you know, I was sort of thinking that none of this applied to me because I didn't have employees. But, you know, clearly I should be able to at least get 10K out of this.
Exactly. And hopefully some more, you know, whether it's through the payroll one or the, and the payroll one, again, is being forgiven. So that will be really nice for everybody. Everybody, you know, unemployment, if you're busy, okay, fine. And maybe you're not unemployed. Maybe you don't need that. But there are a lot of us whose businesses have just decreased, or the clients that we've got aren't paying us, whatever the situation. And we're in the same boat as people being employed. So I was really happy when I kept seeing it, and they keep saying it, that the contractors will be taken care of too.
Amy, I have a question for you about the unemployment.
Yes, Heather.
So for a reduction of work, I have among my network several service providers who have received notice of salary reductions, but hours have not been reduced. So what kind of documentation would they need to provide? Would they even qualify? Because it's still a salary reduction of significant amounts, but they're still expected to work.
It's lack of work, okay, right. is the terminology. There's a checkbox, okay? Everything in this world now revolves around websites and checkboxes. So it's that lack of work that they've had their reduction, okay? When the when the owner of the business fills out the information, they will show how much was paid previously, and then also how much is paid now. And
Okay.
the government, remember, they will see, because every time the tax documents are sent to Pennsylvania, it is sent by Social Security number. So they have the history, okay?
Mhm.
And they will be able to see, this quarter was this quarter was that. Okay, there's a reduction there. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And from what I'm hearing, and again, don't quote me on this at all, I use that disclaimer all over the place. From what I'm hearing, that $600 is per person per week from the federal government. It doesn't look like it's being prorated, which is really interesting again. I mean, because unemployment compensation is totally prorated. You know, it's on a scale, and the $600 looks like it's just being given to people. Now remember also, when people apply for this unemployment, there's another checkbox. Do you want your taxes taken out? And the answer is yes. Because you don't want to do all of this, get all this money, and then have to pay the government later in 2021 for all of this.
I heard Jill Schlesinger on CBS earlier, and she is a noted podcaster, I guess, and CBS journalist, and she had said that if you're at the low end, if you're like a $30,000 a year person, you will get actually more money than you would have normally. And if you're at like the $60,000, $70,000, you're in the median and you get about the same. But that $600 is designed to make up the difference between what your unemployment normally is and like how, or what your employment would normally have paid you, and the lesser amount of money that you'd get from unemployment.
Well, what's interesting is, like you said, there will be people making more money on a weekly basis than in their current jobs. So how many people are going to go back to work?
Well, that was the explanation, is they don't want people to go back to work. I mean, this is not forever and ever. This is for like 8 weeks or something like that, at least at this point.
It's
right?
going through July
actually,
31st.
Right, it's longer than that. But if you're not going back to work, that's because really you're kind of being asked to like stay home and not spread the virus.
Oh, absolutely right now. Absolutely. But not necessarily in July. Well, who knows in July.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not in July, you know. But I don't want to be really political there.
Amy, I have a question, and it might be too specific. Do you know if that EIDL loan is available to 501c6s?
As far as I know, it's available to 501c3s.
Okay.
You have to look at the specific information to see, but it does say nonprofit, so I'm not sure if it's a 501c6 it would be, but it might be.
Okay.
Yeah. On the application, it actually describes like what it is, so you can look there.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Amy, it's Ford again.
Yes.
On the PPP, you were talking about utilities and rent and healthcare costs, right?
Yes.
So as an independent business owner who pays his own healthcare, is that also to be mixed into the formula?
I'm waiting to see.
Okay.
Yes, because it is one of those that's, you know, we people who are paying their own health care get a benefit on the tax return. So I'm not sure if it's going to be, again, if that's considered double dipping on what they're going to do for that. But again, it's to help people for the next 8 weeks. So that might be one of the ones that they do.
Okay. So we just have to wait until next week and find out when they have more definition.
Yes, and the 10th is on Friday, guys. So supposedly that's when things are going to happen. So keep looking at the news and all the other briefings that we all are getting, you know, 50 million copies of every day now. But there's should be some information coming out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I really appreciate it, though. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
As I said,
Great
Zoe is
information,
going
Amy. I
to,
really appreciate it.
Zoe's going to put this on the website for the members only section. And my name and email, phone number are on there. Okay. If you're looking me up on LinkedIn, Andersson does have the 2 S's. So just be cognizant of that and just contact me. I've got times available that if you've got a specific question, Zoe, I'm going to look at that 501c6 to see if that's applicable or not. Somebody here did who's a nonprofit? Somebody had a nonprofit. Scott, no?
Chris works with two
you've got the
nonprofits. I have a 501c7 and a 501c3
Okay.
that I'm dealing with.
Okay. So we'll look at those. So it's a 501c3, 3s, yes, I know that. I'll find out on the 6 and the 7s to see if those are eligible for either the EIDL. If you have people on a paycheck, I mean, if you pay people, then the answer is, I believe you're applicable for the PPP as well. Okay.
Yeah, my problem with mine is there's summer organizations and we don't have any payroll right now.
Well, what they say though is they specifically give you the dates to use for that payroll.
Okay.
And again, you might want to wait until June 30th to get that if there's still money available.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for attending.
Beacon is the premier executive networking organization serving the Mid-Atlantic region. To learn more, go to beaconforlife.org.